Okay, now let's discuss about the structure of an antibody. Antibodies are special proteins which are produced by B lymphocytes in response to an antigen. So, antibodies are the proteins which are produced by B lymphocytes when it comes across an antigen. So, when an antigen enters our body, the B lymphocytes recognize that antigen and start producing a particular protein, and these proteins are called as antibodies. Now let's study the structure of an antibody. So as you can see in the diagram over here, the antibodies are Y-shaped protein molecules. So here you can see it's a Y-shaped structure. So antibody is a Y-shaped protein molecule, and they are commonly called as immunoglobulins. So antibodies are Y-shaped protein molecules commonly called as immunoglobulins. Okay, it's represented as capital I small letter G, Ig. Ig stands for immunoglobulins. Now, each antibody molecule, as you can see here, has 4 polypeptide chains. Each antibody molecule is made up of 4 polypeptide chains. Of these, 2 chains are long chains. Here you can see this Y arm. These 2 chains are long chains and they are called as heavy chains, and these 2 chains are short chains and are called as light chains. So one antibody molecule will be having 4 polypeptide chains, or an antibody molecule is made up of 4 polypeptide chains. Of these, 2 are long chains and are called as heavy chains, and the other 2 chains are small chains or short chains, which are called as light chains. And hence an antibody is represented as H2L2. H stands for heavy chain and L stands for light. So H stands for heavy, 2 heavy chains. L stands for light, so 2 light chains. So H2L2 this is how we represent an antibody molecule. So an antibody molecule is a Y-shaped structure with 4 polypeptide chains. Now you can see each polypeptide chain. So these are 4 different chains. Now the heavy chain and the light chain, they are held together by means of disulfide bonds. That is, 2 sulfur atoms joined together to form a disulfide bond. So there will be disulfide bonds between a light chain and a heavy chain, as well as between heavy chains, 2 heavy chains. So the chains are held together by means of disulfide bonds. Now each chain, that is, this is a heavy chain, this is a heavy chain, and this is a short chain or a light chain. Each chain has 2 regions. You can see that one is light and one is shaded portion. So this chain, each chain has 2 regions. The first region is called as a variable region and the other one is called as a constant region. Here also you can see that this is a variable region and this is the constant region. The amino acids, as you know, protein molecules are made up of amino acids. The amino acids present in the variable region keeps on changing from antibody to antibody, whereas the amino acids in the constant region remains the same. So hope you understood that. That is, in the constant region, the amino acids will be the same. Of all the antibodies, the amino acids present in the constant region will be the same, whereas in the variable region, the amino acids keeps on changing from antibody to antibody. Now, each chain has a particular site for the antigen to bind, and this site is called as an antigen binding site. So, light chain has a antigen binding site. The heavy chain has an antigen binding site. Each arm of the heavy chain and the light chain has an antigen binding site. So now once again I'll repeat the structure of the antibody. So first, what is an antibody molecule? An antibody is a protein molecule which is made up of amino acids, and each antibody molecule is a Y-shaped structure. It is made up of 4 chains, 4 polypeptide chains. 2 chains are heavy and the other 2 chains are light. The heavy chains are long and the light chains are short. Then each chain has 2 regions. One is the variable region and the other one is the constant region. As you can see here, These are the variable regions and these are the constant regions. The amino acid in the variable region keeps on changing from antibody to antibody, whereas the amino acids in the constant region remains the same in all the antibodies. Now these chains, that is the short chains and the heavy chains, are held together by means of disulfide bonds. You can see that it is marked as SS. So these are the disulfide bonds by which these chains are held together. And each chain has an antigen binding site to which the antigen comes and binds. So since it is made up of 4 polypeptide chain, this antibody molecule is represented as H2L2, that is 2 heavy chains and 2 light chains. So that is all about the structure of antibody. Hope you all understood. Now let's see the different types of acquired immunity. As I've told you, there are 2 major types of acquired immunity, that is the naturally acquired immunity and artificially acquired immunity. Now each of these, that is naturally acquired immunity, is again divided into active immunity and passive immunity. Artificial acquired immunity is also divided into active immunity and passive immunity. Now what is active immunity? Active immunity is the immunity which is produced by the body in response to an antigen. Once again, active immunity is the immunity produced by the body in response to an antigen. That is, when an antigen enters the body responds to that by producing antibodies, and such an immunity is called as active immunity. Whereas in passive immunity, ready-made antibodies or pre-formed, which are already formed, that is why it's called as ready-made antibodies. The ready-made antibodies are introduced into the body. Ready-made antibodies are introduced into the body. The body does not produce antibodies, but the antibodies which are produced somewhere else is introduced into the body. That is why it's called as passive immunity. So in active immunity, there is expenditure of energy, whereas in the case of passive immunity, there is no expenditure of energy. Now, in naturally acquired immunity, what is naturally acquired active immunity? Let's see. Here what happens is, whenever we suffer from an infection, the body first recognizes that pathogen. For example, when a rhinovirus enters our body, rhinovirus is a virus which causes common cold. So when a rhinovirus enters our body, what happens? Our body recognizes that rhinovirus. Which cells? The B lymphocytes recognize that rhinovirus. Immediately, what happens is the B lymphocytes divides into different cells. One type of cells are called as the plasma cells, and the other type of cells are called as memory cells. These are all just for your information. These are not mentioned in your textbook either. So these plasma cells start secreting antibodies. And then what happens? These antibodies goes and bind with the virus, that is the antigen, and destroy the antigen. So it takes some time for the body first to recognize the virus. Then the body starts producing, B lymphocytes start dividing, produces plasma cells and memory cells, and these plasma cells start producing antibodies, and then it goes and binds with the antigen and destroys the antigen. That is why it takes 5 to 7 days for our body to recover from a common cold. So then this kind of immunity is called as naturally acquired active immunity. So here you can see antigens enter the body naturally. Then what happens? Body produces antibodies and specialized lymphocytes. Specialized lymphocytes in the sense plasma cells which produce antibodies. So that is naturally acquired active immunity. Hope you got it. Now we'll see what is naturally acquired passive immunity. So here the antibodies, the person receives the antibodies. So in nature, when a child is developing inside a mother's womb, what happens is the fetus gets the nutrients, and through the nutrients, along with the nutrients, the fetus also receives the antibodies through the placenta. Through the placenta, the fetus receives the antibodies. And this type of immunity is called as naturally acquired passive immunity. that is the immunity which, or the antibodies which a fetus gets, which a child gets when the child is developing inside the mother's womb. This is called as naturally acquired passive immunity. Now let's see what is artificially acquired active immunity. So artificially acquired, in the sense we are introducing that antigen. We are introducing the antigen into the body, either in a half-killed manner or a completely killed manner. The antigen, either killed or half-killed or completely killed antigen, is injected into the body of the organism. For example, as soon as a child is born, the child will be given an injection by name BCG. It's a vaccine. So what is this vaccine? This vaccine contains the antigen which are responsible for certain diseases. And when this antigen is injected into the body of the child, what happens is the child's body responds to that antigen by producing antibodies. But there will be no disease. The child will not suffer from the disease. Why? Because the antigen is in half-killed form. But the body recognizes that antigen. So this is how active artificially acquired active immunity. So here you can see antigens are introduced in vaccines. The body produces antibodies and specialized lymphocytes. But here the problem is, in the first case, that is naturally acquired active immunity. Here, naturally acquired active immunity, what happens is the antigens, as a result of the entry of the antigens into the body recognizes the antigen and antibodies are produced by the body. Along with that, certain memory cells also will be produced. And these memory cells remain in the body for a longer time. And when the same antigen, that is, for example, chickenpox virus, first when it enters the body reacts. So how it produces antibodies. By the time the antibodies are produced, what happens is we will be suffering from all that symptoms of chickenpox, like vesicle formation will be there, we'll be having fever and all that. And after 14-15 days, what happens? We will be completely cured from that chickenpox. And during this time, what happens is antibodies will be produced by the body against the chickenpox virus. And what happens is the memory cells remain in the body for a longer time. So that is why, again, normally during our lifetime, a person normally suffers only once by chickenpox. The reason is because when in case if the chickenpox virus enters the body a second time, what happens is the memory cells immediately recognizes that virus and start producing antibodies. So there is no time lag. Immediately antibodies will be produced, and hence the chickenpox virus cannot produce any response in the body. So we will not suffer from chickenpox. So here in the first case, that is an active, naturally acquired active immunity, memory cells are produced, and these memory cells give us that protection for a longer time. But here in the case of artificially acquired active immunity, memory cells will not be produced because we are directly injecting the antibody, we are injecting the antigen, and the antibodies are produced in the body. Antibodies will be produced by the body, and there also here also memory cells will be produced. Active immunity, since it is active immunity, here the main difference is here antigen enters naturally, here antigens are introduced artificially. That's a difference. But in both the cases, the immunity which is provided will be the same. Antibodies will be produced by the body in both these cases. Okay. Whereas in passive immunity, in both the cases, antibodies will be introduced into the body, either from mother to fetus, as in the case of naturally acquired passive immunity. Whereas in the case of artificially acquired passive immunity, for example, suppose a dog bites. We cannot wait for our body to recognize the antigen and produce the antibodies. If we wait for that, what will happen? The person may die. He will be affected by rabies and he will die. Or the same is the case with a snake bite. When a snake bites, the poison enters our body. The poison acts as an antigen. And we cannot wait for our body to recognize the antigen, produce the symptoms, and then produce antibodies and all that, because the person may die. So in such cases, what is done is preformed antibodies or antibodies which are ready-made, which are formed earlier, will be injected into the body directly, so that what happens is these antibodies go and react with that antigen. That is in the case of snake bite poison, and there will be an antigen antibody reaction resulting in the destruction of the antigen, and the person's life can be saved. So that is artificially acquired passive immunity. Here what happens is pre-formed antibodies in the immune serum are introduced into the body by injection. So these are the two main types of acquired immunity are naturally acquired immunity and artificially acquired immunity. In both these cases, we can again divide both naturally acquired immunity into naturally acquired active immunity and naturally acquired passive immunity. Artificially acquired immunity can be divided into artificially acquired active immunity and artificially acquired passive immunity. Hope you understood the difference. Okay, now let's see the different types of antibodies. Normally, there are 5 different types of antibodies. As I've told you earlier, antibodies are denoted by the letter Ig, capital I, small letter G. Ig stands for immunoglobulin. Immunoglobulin G. This is an antibody which a child gets or the fetus gets from the mother through the placenta. Second type of antibody is the IgA. This antibody is found in colostrum. Now, what is colostrum? Colostrum is the yellowish, thick yellowish fluid which comes out from the mammary gland immediately after delivery during the initial days of lactation. The milk, in short, we can say the milk which comes out from the mammary gland immediately after delivery. That milk is called as colostrum, and it is rich in antibodies IgA. Now the third type of antibodies are IgM. The fourth type IgE. IgE is the antibody which is normally produced during an allergic reaction. Whenever we have certain allergies, this is the antibody which is produced, that is IgE. And the fifth one, IgD. So these are the 5 different types of antibodies which are found, that is IgG, IgA, IgM, IgE and IgD. So that is all about antibodies. Now let's see another topic, that is autoimmune disease. What are autoimmune diseases? Due to certain genetic reasons or certain unknown reasons, sometimes the immune system of our body destroys our own cells or body cells. Our own body cells will be attacked by some other cells of our immune system. As a result of that, there will be some damage to the body. So the damage which is caused to the body due to the attack of the immune system to our own cells, or else we can say the autoimmune diseases are the diseases which are caused due to certain unknown reasons or sometimes due to genetic reasons or certain unknown reasons, when the body's immune system attacks cells causing damage to the body. Example for that autoimmune disease is rheumatoid arthritis. Another example is juvenile diabetes. Sometimes the children will be born with diabetes. That is again another example of autoimmune disease. Now we'll see allergy. Allergy is, what is allergy? The term is very clear. Sometimes due to certain dust or pollen grains, we develop certain allergies. Some people are prone to dust allergy. Some people are prone to pollen allergy. So what are the common symptoms of allergy? When there is allergy, sometimes the person starts sneezing continuously, watery eyes, running nose, sometimes rashes on the body. These are certain symptoms of allergy. So now what is allergy? Allergy is nothing but exaggerated response of the immune system towards certain antigens which are present in the environment. So what is allergy? Exaggerated. Exaggerated means over. Exaggerated response of the immune system. Over response, excess response of the immune system to certain antigens present in the body. That is called as allergy. Now, the agents which cause allergy, they are called as allergens. Allergens are the agents which cause allergy. Example for allergens are mites, pollen grains, dust, etc. Now, as we have already discussed, the antibodies which are present, it is the IgE antibodies. Now, during this allergic reaction, certain chemicals will be secreted by the body, and these chemicals which are secreted due to an allergic reaction, they are histamines and serotonin. Histamine and serotonin are the two chemicals which are secreted as a result of allergy or during allergic reactions. Now, the drugs which are commonly used to treat allergic reactions, one is antihistamine, the second one is adrenaline, and the third one steroids. So, hope you understood. So, what is allergy? Allergy is nothing but an exaggerated response of the immune system to certain antigens present in the environment. The agents which cause allergy are called as allergens, and the symptoms of allergy are sneezing, watery eyes, a running nose, rashes on the body, and so on. Then the antibodies which are produced during an allergic reaction, they are IgE antibodies. The chemicals which are secreted during an allergic reaction are normally histamines and serotonins, and the drugs which we use to treat this allergic reactions are antihistamine drugs, adrenaline drugs, or steroid drugs. Okay, now let's see about in detail about immune system. Now, as we have seen, our immune system consists of mainly the lymphoid organs, the lymphoid tissues, certain cells, and soluble molecules like antibodies. So, human immune system consists of lymphoid organs, lymphoid tissues, certain cells of the body, and certain soluble molecules like antibodies. Now, let's study about lymphoid organs. What are lymphoid organs? Lymphoid organs are the organs where the origin, maturation, and proliferation of lymphocytes take place. So, what are lymphoid organs? Lymphoid organs are the organs where origin, maturation, and proliferation. Proliferation means division and development. Development of lymphocytes take place. They are called as lymphoid organs. Now, what are lymphocytes? They are certain kind of WBCs. Now, lymphoid organs are of two types. One is primary lymphoid organ. The primary lymphoid organs are the thymus gland and the bone marrow. So, based on that, earlier we have seen in acquired immunity, I have told you that there are two types of lymphocytes, that is T lymphocytes and B lymphocytes. T lymphocytes, both these lymphocytes originate in the bone marrow, and later one type of lymphocyte migrate to thymus gland. They are called as T lymphocytes, whereas the other one remain in the bone marrow, and they develop immunocompetence in the bone marrow itself, and they are called as B lymphocytes. So, the primary lymphoid organs are the thymus and the bone marrow. The secondary lymphoid organs are the spleen. It's a small organ which is just the shape of our palm. Then that's a very small organ. It's considered as a graveyard of RBCs. Then lymph nodes. The secondary lymphoid organs are the lymph nodes. Then the third one, tonsils. The fourth one, pairs, patches of small intestine, and the vermiform appendix. So these are some of the secondary lymphoid organs. So hope you understood. Lymphoid organs are the organs which where the origin, maturation, and proliferation of lymphocytes takes place. There are two types of lymphocytes, that is T lymphocytes and B lymphocytes, and accordingly the lymphoid organs are of two types, primary lymphoid organ and the secondary lymphoid organ. Primary lymphoid organs are the thymus and the bone marrow, and the secondary lymphoid organs are the spleen, lymph nodes, tonsils, pairs, patches of the small intestine, and appendix. Now, a type of tissue associated with this lymphatic system is the malt and galt. Malt, M stands for mucosa. Mucosa associated lymphoid tissue. Mucosa associated lymphoid tissue, and galt is gut associated lymphoid tissue. That means lymphoid tissue which is found in the gut, that is alimentary canal, that is called as galt, and the lymphoid tissue which is found in the mucous membrane, that is called as mucosa associated lymphoid tissue. So these are the lymphoid organs.